Okay, get comfy. Can we turn off that radiator? Is that possible?
Sashi Kuki Jikshing Metok Sham Rira Lingshi Nde Impadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Uwarki Droku Namdak Shingla Triparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandalakam Niryatayami Sangye Shudam Soki Chognam La Jamshu Bardu Dakni Kyatsuchi Daki Jinyen Gipe Sunam Ki Jola Penchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chudam Soki Chognam La Jamshu Bardu Dakni Kyatsuchi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sunam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chudam Soki Chognam La Jamshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Penshir Sangye Druparsho.
We're going to start with a 5-minute warm-up meditation, and we'll take a 30-second break. We center yourselves, and then go into a 13 minutes. Let this sound of the bell, this chime, create an automatic response to relaxation. All you're doing here is letting go, release, loosening up. You may often feel that you're in your heads. So for now, begin to let your awareness really descend into the body. Descend into your torso, your thighs, the soles of your feet. Begin to feel the tactile sensations, the firmness of the ground. Try to ground your awareness resting it in a witnessing mode. No imagination or rumination here. Just being present of the sensations of your body and the contact to the ground. As the breath flows in and out through your nose, focus in the areas, breath by breath, that have any type of tension, releasing with every exhale, surrendering your muscles to gravity. Relax your face, your forehead. Settle the body. Relax your mind, releasing with every exhale any thoughts that seem to be lingering. And release any type of speech, any chatter, noise. So that you've really settled your body, speech, and mind in its most natural, neutral state. Readjust yourself, open your eyes when you're ready. I'm going to push it, make it a 17-minute meditation. Is that okay? I mean, you're here, so. Begin to inhale and exhale through your nose. Gently, don't force the breath. We've been talking a lot about valid perceptions. What does it mean to have a perception that's considered valid? How do you define what valid perception is to you? Is it something that you experience? Is it something that you deduce? Is it something you must see? What is real to you? I want you to think about a fear that you have and bring it right in front of you. It can be a certain kind of fear, or maybe it's a circumstance or situation that brings up the fear. But really identify and crystallize best you can. Don't let it run away. Try to articulate what that fear is, which will be the object of your meditation tonight. Then I want you to begin examining what triggers this fear. When does it arise? Is it just certain moments of the day? Or is it infused in the way you see your world? Does this fear still seem real to you? For most of us, it feels very real and absolute. See how you've created something where it does seem like it's an absolute, like a fact. See how it stops you from making decisions for you, truly being your potential. Have you validly perceived this fear? Where did it come from? If you've lost your object, no worries. Take a couple rounds of breath. Relax, release, and simply return back to the object. But don't let this object run away. Have the courage to look straight at it. Where did this fear come from? Did your mom give it to you? Did your dad? Was it a boss? Why is it such a part of you? How did that happen? Keep your mind focused and sharp, laser focused. Can you see that you created something, a construct that you bought into? Can you see that maybe this fear that exists and permeates your mind, your body, your spirit is a fabrication made by you? Can you imagine what it's like to not have this notion of this kind of fear? Is that even possible? What would it look like if you didn't have this fear? How would your world look different to you? What blocks would no longer be there? What kind of clarity would you have? Imagine the possibility of not having this fear that you've reified to be true, self-existent, unchanging and unmoving. Imagine what your potential looks like, feels like, sounds like, tastes like. If you're at all distracted, use your breath as a tool, releasing any noise, distractions, tension with every exhale. Every inhale, brighten your awareness. White light. Keep your focus centered, sharp. Have the courage to really look and address your fear. And the emptiness of it. Fear does not exist outside of you. It is not put upon you. It is not forced onto you, but rather something that you have created from your own mind. Which means that just as real as it may seem, just as self-existent as it may seem, also quite the opposite. Release and let go of your fears. All right. How was that?
Intense.
It was intense. Yeah. That's just a little bit down, like what my meditation is like. I thought that we would. That's what one of my. That's a snippet, I should say, of what my analytical meditations are like for myself. I thought I would share it with you only because, I don't know, I just remember so many times I've been in teachings and I have certain type of meditations, but then there are analytical ones that no one ever shares. And I'm like, what does it look like? How does it, like, what's that journey like? And I don't know. And so in full transparency, I don't even know if it's not a process. It's something that's come from my own practice of how I look at analysis. And so I wanted to share that, and hopefully that will help. And at least you'll have your own way of looking at it. One thing I have realized, at least for myself while I practice, is that there are certain outlines of meditations that are given. I find that some of the outlines that I've been given are, I don't know, a little on the crusty side. Like it doesn't relate to me. It's in a certain structure where I'll give you an example. Like for me, so we're in the Galupa lineage, and the preliminaries, I don't know, the way it's been expressed to me, it's hard for me to sit with. I have a different way of how I've taken that same structure and personalized it so it relates to me. You should have your meditations should be exciting. And if they're not, find a different meditation. It shouldn't be something that you're just like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I mean, if it's like an, oh man, I don't want to do this because I know it's going to really be gut wrenching, but it should be something you're excited that you want to bring to fruition. It doesn't help if you're not inspired by it, because you won't do it. You won't stay with it. And I have found that to find my way of understanding it and getting a sense of it and speaking with teachers to make sure I'm on course, but finding my version of it is really important. It doesn't need to always be the way that other people do it. It makes no sense. Like, you don't eat the way that other people always eat. Like, you will improvise and make sense to you. And I think that sometimes, especially in teachings, at least for myself, I always thought it needed to be a very regimented way. And analytical meditations are done in so many different ways and expressions. And I think that the deeper you go into it and really look at how do I do an analysis, what is the best way for me, what works, what doesn't, the better, that there's just so different ways. Like if I were to do a sit like this, I'm not narrating to myself, right? I'm not like saying, okay, Jee, so take a look at a fear, choose what, it's more like, I got a fear, I know that it's coming up. And so it's like I get in and it's just like I sit with it and I just stare at it and I look at it and I don't leave until I get a sense of what is this thing made out of? What is it made out of? Where did you come from? You know, how did it come? And usually it goes down through like memory lane for me. I'm like, well, in 7th grade, you know, it goes back to like 5th grade, and 3rd grade, and 1st grade, you know, and so then there's all these different avenues. So it doesn't, you know, and from there I start building and getting a sense of it and getting a deeper understanding. And there's work that I do off the cushion as well, right? Whether it's going to be yoga, whether it's reading different things that really help evoke what that looks like. But do your own process is really the takeaway. Okay. I know that was very heavy, but I thought it was important for us to try something new. Okay, here we go. So, class 4. Last week, what did we talk about? Does anyone remember?
I remember at the end we were talking about like, is the Buddha's mind like changeable, and does it something about?
Is it unchanging or changing?
Yeah,
We talked about that.
get some logic involved.
We talked about 3 tests. You remember that?
Mhm.
What were the 3 tests used for?
To prove things about duplicated reality, or a statement that's
Right.
coming from that bit.
So we had this statement last week. I'm going to just go through the animation really quickly. So we're doing a quick review.
Oh, it's the first section.
Oh no, that wasn't it, right? Let's see, where am I? Okay, we're gonna go down memory lane and just do a refresh. So last week we talked about Seme Kebu. We talked about a person who has valid perceptions, right? That's what a Seme Kebu is. Refresh, what's a valid perception? What's the textbook definition of a valid perception? What's a valid perception?
Unmistaken, is the word, fresh state of mind.
Fresh, unerring, unaffected state of mind, right? Which means what? What does that mean? What's an unaffected state of mind?
You're not under the influence of a substance or a mental affliction.
So you're not under some sort of outer substance. You're not intoxicated or hallucinating, and there's no outer substance. And, right, or you don't have mental affliction, right? So we've talked about things like doubt, right? That creates, which I think is, there's something with doubt, but you're not afflicted. Your mind isn't being attacked, so that it's creating you to not be able to have a valid perception, right? No big deal, right? So valid perception is it's a fresh valid perception. It's a fresh perception that's unerring, and your mind is not affected. So if we're looking at this flower at this moment, it's a fresh perception that you're having. You see flower, yellow. I don't think anyone here, at least it doesn't look like it, is affected. Their minds, that doesn't seem affected. And so that's all it is. Okay, that's what a valid perception is. So we talked about that the last, I don't know, it's like 2-3 weeks. We've been talking about valid perceptions. So Sema Kebu is someone who has a valid perception. But it's not just, it's that they have a valid perception all the time, right? That they're unaffected all the time. We talked a little bit last week about what happens. Imagine having someone in your life who's a Seme Kebu. Everything that they say is a valid perception, right? We talked last week a bit about how much of the commentaries that we have, the topics that we talk about, are not valid perceptions. Did you guys notice that? Or I don't know, have you been observing that over the week? Where do you not have valid perceptions that you still have conversations, right? Where you make assumptions or speculations about people or things, right? I mean, Armando and I were just having a conversation today about a job that he's doing, and it's like, what was that client thinking? Well, they're probably thinking blah, 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 blah. That's not a valid perception at all, you know? It's just a speculation that we have. So there's this idea that we are, most of us make comments and actually make decisions based on things that are not valid perceptions. So Sema Kebus are beings that are only speaking the truth. They're only speaking what's valid. Everything else that they have to say is, or anything that they're not saying is, they only speak the truth. Let's just leave it at that. We also talked about, we said we had this word last week of sikyu, meaning the object. What is Sema Kebu seeing? What is the object that they are seeing? We talked about that. And then we said there are two kinds of ways to see. Jee Chang, right? Two ways to see. One is looking at things that are existing, the totality of all objects we talked about. Remember that? So there's two ways to see things. You can see the totality of all things, all given things at any given time. And then we talked about Jee Chang, which is the emptiness of things, right? What does that mean? What's the emptiness of something? Well, the first one is really the totality. It's really the conventional nature of something, right? What's this? Conventionally, it's a phone, right? And so what does emptiness look like? What's the ultimate? What is this?
Whatever you project on, you project onto this object and see what you see of it because of your karma.
Yeah, exactly. So this is not self-existently a phone, because if it were, everyone in the world, all beings, all sentient beings, would be able to see this as a phone. And there will be places that you will go to or can go to in the world where people have never seen anything like this. It just looks like some sort of flat slab, a disc, something, right? Definitely not a camera. Definitely it's not something that you can FaceTime, right? They don't. So things have an emptiness, a quality of emptiness to them, right? So we've talked about that.
So the totality of all objects is paperweight, lump,
White, black, silver object. There's something here.
so all its uses, all its functions, you're seeing at all times. The ultimate nature of it is the emptiness of it, that it isn't any of those things.
It's just what you project onto it.
So one is sort of the view of all of its uses
Yes.
and functions.
Yes.
The other is the fact that none of them are valid.
Yeah.
None of them are ultimate.
And the importance of that too is that you have to be able to do both. It's not one or the other. They're both valid. They both exist. They both function in the world. But knowing that you're not walking around the world being like, that's empty. You're empty. I'm just going to go ahead and, it's like, I see a bridge and that's water underneath and that's empty. So I'm just going to jump off that bridge because it's empty. It's all coming from me. So I want it to be 5 feet. Then I can just make it 5 feet. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, right? There's a certain karma that we have as humans where we do have certain limitations as humans, right? So understanding to know that those two things can exist at the same time, and in fact do. And when omniscient beings are seeing the world, they're always looking at both of those paths at the same time consecutively. Right? It's not one or the other. Yes.
I just have a question on the last thing you said. When we use the word omniscient, as we talked last week about the difference between knowing all things and seeing all things, and that made sense to me. It's like, when we use omniscient, how are we using it? Omniscient, like, are we saying all knowing or all seeing?
It's the same difference.
Okay.
The way the Buddha talks, when we talk about the Buddha and his knowledge, we say it's all see.
Okay.
He sees. Yeah. We see it and sees, not knowing, because Yeah, that's how we say it. It's what he sees. Yeah. I mean, that's just scripturally, that's how it's said.
Got it. So
But
just when you hear the word omniscient,
Mhm.
that's what you
Yeah.
should think.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
no,
Because he sees,
fresh.
yeah, he sees it fresh all the time. Past, present, future, all at one time,
Mhm.
right? It's not he doesn't know he sees it.
Mhm.
And with that, you're inferring that he obviously knows.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, and then we talked about there are 3 tests that we should consider whenever you are testing authority in scripture. Do you remember this? Okay. So especially, and this was in particular to hidden phenomena, right? So we talked about there are things that happen in life and we don't know why. Well, at least conventionally we don't know why. You know, why did my car 2 weeks ago get hit by a dump truck? I don't know. I don't know why. It's never had that happen before. The garbage truck driver was so nice, and he has been a driver for, 21 years? Never had an accident. Why did that happen? You know, and I could sit there and I remember seeing the car and being like, well, it was on the end of the road. But it actually wasn't. It was actually quite far in. So that logic didn't work. I'm like, well, it was because it was hard to see. Armando was literally outside the car scraping it. There was a human being. I mean, there are all these different factors. It's like, why did that happen? Why did that happen, right? So there are hidden phenomena that happen where we don't have an answer. I think that we've been acclimated or we've adjusted our mindsets to think it's okay to not have answers. Like, I don't know. You know, I've been in this really funk where when everyone says, I don't know, it makes me go crazy. Like, why don't you know? You have the right to know. You should know. Why don't you know? You know, or at least find out why you don't know. Like, why is it okay just to be like, I don't know? You know, so there's 3 tests that we talked about last week of how do you check and test to see if authority is saying something, you know, if there's a teacher up here that says, you know, you should all be taking LSD if you want to be enlightened, how do you know if that's really true or not, right? So we talked about 3 tests. Based on scriptural authority, there's 3 tests that need to be looked at to see if someone is saying something that's accurate about something that's a deeply hidden phenomenon. Okay, so one we talked about was nungsungi mi lupa, which was that the statement that they're saying can't be disproved by the direct perception you have or have had, right? Remember this? What does that mean?
It means I see that the flower is yellow.
Yeah.
So if you say it's green,
Right.
So, well,
You've had a perception. You get it. You see it.
yep.
Yeah. It works, right? You're like, I'm like, this is green, everyone, right? Green flower, and you're saying, no, it's not possible. I have a valid perception that this, in fact, is yellow. That doesn't work for me, right? Yeah? Okay. So then in the test there's 3 tests, and all 3 tests have to pass. The second one is Jee Gimi Nupa, which means that it doesn't contradict. There's airtight reasoning behind the statement that's being said. Okay. So like if we were to say there are future lives, right? The first one would say, the question would be, do you have a valid perception to deny that there are future lives?
No.
If you don't have a valid perception, then okay, so it still holds true. Possible. Second one, is there airtight reasoning to speak to that there are future lives, which we'll talk about in the rest of this course, right? And the third one, Nachi Mingel, is the source, right? The teacher. Is there anything that the teacher has said where there's a contradiction? Is there something that I've said in the past that would contradict that there are not future lives? I don't think so. I hope not. And if I did, then strike what I said before. Okay? So it's basically so there's 3 tests. It's experience, it's logic and it's consistency. Those are the three main things. Okay? Experience, did you experience it? Do you see it? Is there an experience that you have that can negate it? Logically, does it make sense? Right? Or is there some sort of inconsistency that would make it invalid? Right? So that's the three steps. Tonight, we're going to talk about this statement here. Can you say ma dangpa?
Ma dangpa.
Ni seja.
Ni seja.
Shing.
Shing.
Actually, it should be ma dangpa ni.
Ma dangpa ni.
Seja shing.
Seja shing.
What do you think ma is?
Negative. Isn't it like
Yeah.
whatever negates anything? Or maybe
Uh,
it's like takpa and nitakpa.
mhm.
One is like not unchanging.
Yeah,
But
but that's with the tapa, right? Tak. Ma. What does ma sound like?
mom.
Ma pa.
My last name.
It's about you.
Ma pa. Ma.
Like same mom?
Mom. Mother. Yeah, mother. Dang pa pa. Father. Same. Right. Seja kill. Or seja is kill. Shing is and. So the statement says, it's actually a really famous statement that's in the Buddhist scriptures.
Okay.
That says, kill your mother and father. So it goes on, it's like kill your mother and father, destroy your town, your country, everything in it. So it's in the law, it goes on and on. But it's basically a statement that's saying, the Buddha is saying, kill your mother and father. Now, what do you think about that statement?
It was me when I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just read that book.
Do you think it's literal? Do you think he's really saying, go kill your mom or dad?
No.
So it's figurative.
Mhm.
How do you know? I mean, really, how do you know? How do you know if it's literal or figurative?
It would, the second test, it would, or the third test, it would contradict the number one rule, which is no harm.
So in teachings, a lot of the times, especially in Buddhism, I don't know if have any of you guys ever encountered even up to this point where you've heard contradictions? You have.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have too. Or you've seen it. Like see contradictions happening or things happening. I don't know. I can't even get into that. I'm not going to get into it. But nonetheless, contradictions that happen. Yeah, all the time, right? And you're just like, what the hell? Like, what am I supposed to, I don't get it. But what's going on, right? It's so confusing. And this is, and it doesn't stop, by the way. It's very, very, it can be very confusing. So we're going to talk about how do you know when something that's coming from a teacher or from the scripture is literal versus figurative. How do you know that? How can you even tell? How do you decipher that? You know? I mean, I've had serious debates after classes or teachings that I've had for years with other Dharma brothers and sisters, just debating about something that was said in class or something that a teacher did, where I'm like, and it's just war because it doesn't make sense. And it's a debate of, is it literal or was it figurative? What the hell is going on? And there's a lot of problems that come from that too, right? This statement, when it was said or when it was written, actually was said and then it was documented, it was written, was really referring to the attachment of parents. It's about attachment. The Buddha didn't really mean for you to go and kill your mother and father. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. It makes no sense, right? We know it's figurative. But it was a point that he was making about attachment. You know, if it was like, go kill mother and father, I don't know, there's something, but even, and especially, you know this, we've talked about this in past courses, but killing your mother and father, that takes you straight to the hell realms. That is not something you want to do, In the Buddhist lineage too, harming your parents is far greater than harming your mama. It's a huge thing. They are high, parents are very, very high karmic objects. So, I don't know, I mean, I remember even for myself, when I really got a handle on that, I've made it a point to serve my parents more in a way with wisdom instead of an obligation, which is a whole other topic we can get into at some point, not tonight. But to know how to do it properly and what that meant and what honor and respect meant, and understanding that they're high karmic objects, but they're very high karmic objects. So to say, for the Buddha to say, kill your mother and father, that's significant. And the point is that it's a grasping, it's a teaching about grasping, how we grasp onto things. And what he's basically saying here is, don't, let it go. It's not self-existent, let it go. Okay. So, Drangne means literal or figurative. Okay.
Literal or figurative?
Or it's literal, it's basically a statement that's saying literal or, figurative. It's like literal, not literal. Literal or not literal. Okay. There are lots of times where teachers I remember hearing this teaching too, and it's funny because I was hearing it again today when Alan Wallace I was listening to a teaching of his. It's always interesting when students follow teachers. Like, I mean, literally, they follow them. You know, if a teacher starts to become a vegan and start juicing, everyone will start to become a vegan and start juicing. If the teacher is really into yoga and a certain kind of yoga, everyone will start to do yoga. If the teacher likes this kind of gel pen, everyone will buy that gel pen. I mean, I've seen it. It's really, really crazy. And Alan Wallace, even on the teaching I was listening to, was making this joke about, like, he hears students that, like, I'm going to try ayahuasca. Everyone starts ayahuasca. I'm done with ayahuasca. I'm going to start doing edibles. Everyone, and it's not about that. And so there's this process that's happened with teacher-student relationships, and it happens in modern-day sanghas all the time, where students will just follow what the teacher does. Like, oh, that blanket or that cushion must be special. I'm going to get that same cushion. It's not like that. It's ridiculous. And actually, teachers, I've heard, will make jokes about how crazy it is. Like, they even think it's crazy because it's not meant to be that way. That's not the point, right? So going into really, how do you look at 3 rules that determine when a statement is figurative or literal? There's 3 rules that the Gurukha lineage has. Lucky for us. First one, can you say gongxi? Gongxi. Gongxi means, gong means thought, and shi means basis. What was the true intent of the statement? What did the teacher have in mind? So for a statement like, kill your mother and father, what was the true intent of the statement? I had a teacher years ago say to me, I was being really diligent about my practice, and I was getting really uptight about it and practicing a lot. And we went out to have tea. And he looked across from me and I said, this is what I'm doing. So I'm going into retreat. These are the things I want to do. And I have this list. And I'm like, these are the goals I have. And I was so into it. And I was practicing 2 hours of Ashtanga, 2 hours on the cushion in the morning, an hour in the evening, no social life. I'm like, I'm going to be enlightened, damn it. I was so intense about it. My teacher looked at me and he goes, I said, what do you think I should do? I had my notebook. I had 3 notebooks. I had my Bodhisattva Vow notebook. Yes, and I had like my 6 times a day book. And I had another book I was doing that I had created that was like my angel book that I called. Anyway, I had all these notebooks and I'm like really, really into it. being so disciplined. And he looked at me and I said, what do I do next? And he said, you need to go home, get a nice sheet of paper, and roll yourself a nice little joint, and go smoke some weed. That's literally what he said. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And I said, are you joking? Like, he goes, no, I think that's what you need to do. You go smoke weed. And I would go home and I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be, like, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, were you being literal or figurative? What was my teacher trying to say?
Relax.
Yeah. He's basically just like, you need to relax. You need to calm down. Like, and why did he use that? Because he knew that I wasn't the type of person that would be like, okay, I'm gonna go, it was just like this moment. And I remember looking at me kind of snickering and I was like, this isn't funny. This is my life. I'm trying to reach enlightenment, damn it, And he just thought it was funny, he chuckled and he's like, you should go home now, and call me a couple of weeks. And it was one of those moments where it's like, it's so contradictory because we had just taken vows and we're not doing intoxicants and that's not, I was confused. And so looking at and trying to understand the intention, why do teachers say the things that they do? Like, can you understand that? Can you really look into that? The Buddha it's been said, the commentaries have been said that the Buddha had that statement about killing your mother and father because it was so impactful. It made you wake up and be like, what? It makes you pay attention to stuff, being like, love everyone, be compassionate, don't be attached. And it just becomes white noise. Instead, it's the same thing with my teacher. It's like, if he had just told me to relax, like, go love yourself and take care of yourself and give yourself a bath. I wouldn't be going home and being like, I would probably just ignore that, to be honest. And be like, whatever, I'll take a long shower. That's what I would do. But instead, for days, I mulled over it. Like, and this was years ago, and I'm like, it was just a different time than it is now. Like, everyone is smoking it on the street. But even back then, I'm like, where do I get weed? Who do I go to? Who do I know that's going to get me weed? It's so illegal. Like, I can't text somebody. Do I call them? What if my phone's tapped? Like, crazy things that was happening. Or I'm trying to understand that. And it's like, but I don't want to disobey my teacher, right? I don't want to disobey. Like, but I'm confused. And that was the point. That was the point, right? It was the point. There was a lesson there. And I had, in that moment, missed the lesson because I couldn't decipher what he was really trying to say at that time in my life. Okay?
Should you go back to the previous slide?
Yeah. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you know in the end?
How did I know? I didn't. It took me a really long time. I sat with it for a while. And I was too uptight to be able to even see it. To be honest, it took me a long time. It almost took me, I think it really ended up taking me years to really look at that and be like, oh, that's what he meant. I had another teacher that came, that's also another teacher of mine, like a couple years later, that, and these two teachers talk with each other. They speak to each other. And he gave me advice that I've shared in the past that was much more literal. He didn't tell me to go smoke weed. But when I moved to Boulder and took time off, he said, every night when the sun set, I want you to sit outside and with a cup of, he said, a beverage of your choice, and watch the sun go down and think about nothing. Don't do anything. Just be still. And that was helpful. But it was the same thing that they were saying. It just had to be done in two different ways. Same point, And that teacher is, I don't think he has as much of a sense of humor than the other one, but they're both from the same lineage, same teacher, two different teachers. And it was nice to see that. And I was like, okay. And even that, by the way, was, I remember when he told me that, the watching the sun go down, I was just like rolling my eyes. I was really annoyed. Like, this is so stupid. I hate this, and I remember sitting there every night with the sun going down, and like, like, when is this over? Trying to not create to-do lists in my mind. And I remember sitting there being like, I should just smoke weed. It's like another teacher was right. And it was a time when it became legal in Colorado. And I was just like, I just smoke weed. I think it's gonna be much easier, probably more enjoyable for the sun. I mean, to sit the sunset. But anyway, but it took me a long time. Okay. Second one. Can you say nula?
Nuja.
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 Nula.
Nuja.
Nuja. So nu. Nuja. Nu is reality, the way things are, laws, two, and nujas contradict. So this is, does it contradict obvious, direct reality or perceptions? Right? Is what they're saying a total contradiction? Go kill your mom and dad. Is that an obvious contradiction? Yeah, of course. Like, what? No, that's ridiculous. If my teacher said you need to go dive off of a cliff, like, no, of course, I get it, right? This is how you know that it's figurative. And the last one, can you say gupa? Again, gupa.
Gupa.
So gu is compelling or need, and pa is great purpose or serve. Means, is there a compelling need to make the statement to achieve a certain purpose? Does it serve you to take you to the next level? I mean, that's what it was for me, right? With my teachers, it's, you're not having, and I've brought this up too in class 1 and 2. You can't have realizations if you're not relaxed. That's why with every meditation, when we start, I give you a 5-minute window to just chill out and relax. Then let's get going into it, you know? Because you can't have realizations if you're uptight. It's not gonna happen. You know? I mean, even just look at the most basic fundamental of, are you even able to have joy when you're uptight? Can't. It's impossible. You can have a little bit fully expressed, you gotta relax. So it was clear for me too that it was, in order for me, yes, I want to reach enlightenment. Yes, I want to see the direct perception of emptiness. Yes, I have these spiritual goals. And it wasn't adding another task to my list. The discipline was not the problem. It was the fact that I was too uptight. And that's what I needed to hear. And that's the lesson that I get time and time again, over and over. And it happens all the time for me. And I think it was 2 weeks ago where I remember seeing so many people in my world so uptight. Everyone was so uptight. My designers at my studio were so uptight, like stressing out. They're trying to do these color palettes and stressing out. And I would walk over and be like, oh my God, just go home. And they're like, am I not good enough? And I'm like, okay, seriously, go home, give yourself a bath, go smoke weed. I don't know, just go home and relax. And the minute that happened, their work changed immediately. It was so much better. And they got really emotional. I remember seeing other people, just colleagues of mine that would meet up so uptight. And at some point it became one person after the other, where I stopped and I said to one in front of mine, I said, are you guys all in this together? Like, is this a joke? Because it's crazy. It's like you're all trying to teach me something because it's so it's so insidious. Everyone is so high strung. Where I'm saying, me, the high strung one, is telling you to relax and chill out. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, why would I even, out of all the people, I'm the one saying that? And I said, you're all in it together. You must be. You know, okay, I said at one point, I'm like, I give up. I get it. I need to relax. Fine. And then my friend looked at me and she's like, I thought we're talking about me. I'm like, oh, right. You need to relax too. But so it's just interesting to start seeing different ways teachings are also done, right? It can also be in ways where you start looking at things that are happening in your lives. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question, but maybe it could wait till later.
Yeah.
But, so like, you're there with your teacher
Yeah.
and they tell you to do a thing, or you're working on a thing,
Yeah.
or whatever, and what if you're like, oh wait, but what you're telling me does not compel to do a certain thing? Like, what if you're like, I genuinely just disagree, or like, I'm
Yeah.
not so down with what you're telling me to do right
Yeah.
now, and how do you approach that
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like, I don't know, it's hard and scary and like not what you're supposed to do, but what you are supposed to do. Like
Yeah.
a contradiction in and of itself.
Yeah. In terms of approaching a teacher.
Yeah, because you're supposed to do whatever they say, but then you're also not supposed to do whatever they say because
That's right.
it could be a test or it could
Yeah.
be this, that, and the other. And I'm like, and it's so touchy because then it's like, I don't know, it's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. My advice has always been, and this is not just to you, but even to other brothers and sisters of mine, and even for myself, I usually sit with it for quite some time before I even approach it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I say quite sometimes it's years. Like there's things that I've seen or I've experienced where I don't agree and I don't know. And then I have to take a look at and see if, is that really true, or is that just my own, like, is there my own gunk that comes along with it that I'm making it, am I bringing my own projections, or I have things that have happened with teachers with, male teachers that will say something, I'm like, that was so sexist, what the hell? And the sexism to me is a very sensitive chord, and I have to sit with it and be like, did I just make that up, or is that really true? And how do I understand? And there are times where it's taken me years and I finally get it, And so there's that. Now, if there are things, I do know, I haven't personally, because I have a different approach with teachers, but I do know a handful of students who will go directly to the teachers and address it and just demand an answer. I will say though, anyone who has demanded an answer from a teacher never gets the answer that they want. That's what I've noticed. It never seems to really pan out. You don't get what you want here. In fact, I think they feel more dissatisfied.
Well, I think that two things. One is the fear. It's like, lighten up. Because there should be no fear involved. Because the goal isn't to stress you out about, well, did they mean this or did they mean that? When she said this, did she really want me to do that? There shouldn't be fear involved. It should be, well, it should be analytical, right? Because the fear is only going to make things worse. It's going to sow seeds of doubt because it's fear. It's not thought. So the question is, okay, I was told to do this. Why was I told to do this? And, it might take 10 years to figure it out, but don't do it from a place of fear because you'll never get to the right answer.
Yeah.
And that's that, I want to be enlightened. I'm going to be enlightened. If I can figure out what you just said, I'm going to get enlightened.
Yeah.
Because that's not going to happen either.
Right.
You
And
know?
the attachment with that goes down
It's
totally.
just a little thing.
Totally. Yeah. Very
I
true.
forget what the other thing I was
No,
gonna
it's
say
true.
was.
I mean, that's a really good point. I think that there are a lot of students who will do things out of fear, and that's not the point either. Like, the analysis is super important. And sometimes, it's even, I've said this too in the past, like, I just table it. It doesn't work for me now, I table it. If I don't feel it, I don't, it doesn't, if I haven't reconciled it. And also I have to get a sense of, is it something that I'm not agreeing to? I have to look at why I'm not agreeing with it. The other thing too, that I've mentioned, and it's in the scriptures, and it's so important, and I don't know, I always feel like it gets lost, but the practice is not about the teacher. Yeah? Like, this is not about the teacher. It's about the teaching and knowing that difference. What is the teaching that you're getting? We're not idolizing teachers here. That's crazy. That's not what this is. That's not the point. These scriptures weren't made to be like, I'm going to manifest all these teachers that you're going to idolize and do whatever they do and listen to whatever they have to say. That's crazy. Your practice is your own. It's important that you know that and you own it. you know, and yes, have humility, right? Yes, understand what it means to have renunciation, absolutely. But there's certain mechanisms that are in place in the process to be able to get in, right? So that you can grow, that you're receptive and open to it. But use your mind. It's given to you for a reason, you know? You're smart. You know, like look at it and start to get a sense of this doesn't work. Just because it works for other people in the room doesn't mean it has to work for you. I mean, I've been in plenty of situations where things have happened and it doesn't work for me. And it's not a me versus them and it's not a judgment. It's just like, it just doesn't work for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm not advanced enough. Maybe I'm actually more advanced. Not sure, doesn't matter, it just doesn't work for me. And I table it. And I don't get involved until I feel comfortable. Because it is gonna be, like at the end of the day, you make decisions and who's responsible for them, right? It's your life. This is your life. You know, so I think just remembering that is important, for sure, yeah. Okay, I think it's last slide. Can you say Semar Gyurpa?
Semar Gyurpa.
Again, Semar Gyurpa.
Semar Gyurpa.
So this just is a statement. It's 4 syllables that are the basis of the second chapter in your readings. It just means the one who turned correct. And there's 2 aspects to this it's inferring. One is inferring that it's saying, when they say the one, it's inferring to the Buddha, okay, first and foremost. And it's saying that he turned correct, meaning that he wasn't enlightened before, he became enlightened, right? He had afflictions before, he had problems before. He was just like you and me. A lot of the times when you see teachers that you perceive as being holy, there was a time before their holiness where they weren't, where they were little monks being jerks in the monastery. There was a lama who would put tacks on the ground for when they were kids, so that when the kids would run, they would step on them. I mean, like, it wasn't like they were, not all, but there were times where they weren't. So just a reinforcement that this is someone who turned correct. They weren't enlightened before. And then the second part is it's inferring to the fact that there's a path, that there's a method to become the Buddha. That when he turned correct, that there was a path in which he could actually do that. So 2 points to it. Yeah. We're gonna take a quick break. Let's just do a few minutes, and then come back and just wrap up with an open discussion, questions, anything anyone has on their mind, topics that people are working with, struggling with, interested in seeing what other people have to say. Yeah? Okay. Thank you. little chair for you? We have chairs here.
Yeah, we do. Did you want me to get one?
Do you want a chair?
No, I just want to be able to lean back. This will work.
Does we have for your back?
No, okay, no. Thank you.
Wait, what do we do? Oh, getting in a circle.
Discussion.
Oh,
It's kind of like a ellipsis. I just forgot to mention too, we're not gonna have class next week, so we're taking a break and then we'll resume the week. Yeah. Which will be good, you can miss it. I have an event I have to go to and I can't miss it. That's why. So anything that's going on? Open, I guess so, I mean, doesn't that mic work for?
Works for everybody.
Yeah, let's do that.
But you should have it right on.
Whatever. Everyone, let's keep it here. Anything that anyone wants to bring up, talk about, discussions, things that are going on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Valid perceptions.
Oh, God.
Everything except that.
Never mind.
Okay. No, go.
So we have 5 senses, 5 primary senses, and then we have, I don't know, 12 or 15 other senses that no one ever talks about, like hunger, hunger pain, that's the sense. So you have all these different senses, and all of those are opportunities to create a valid perception, right? I'm hungry, I feel it, it's a perception. As soon as I analyze, well, why am I hungry? It's no longer a valid perception, right? We talked about you're recalling it.
Right.
I'm talking about being hungry earlier today. It's not the same thing. It's not fresh. How is anything that happens in your brain a perception other than the impulse? You have an impulse that says, I don't like that vase, or I see the vase, because you can't say I don't like it, because that's a judgment.
Right.
But as soon as you start putting that analysis on it, or that thought to it, how can that be a valid perception? That's an interpretation of a perception. So I know, like we talked about doubt and how it affects perception, and I'm just really struggling with a lot of what the teachings are talking about in that, like, thought. Thought is not a valid perception. I don't see how it can be, because it's going out instead of coming in.
Yeah, I get it.
Follow?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it in terms of, well, we don't look, I mean, in the tradition, we don't, first of all, we don't think of it as like the brain, right? The brain isn't what the mind is. They're two different things, right? And so like, I'm just thinking about it in the context of like, when you have the direct perception of emptiness, for instance, you see it. You see it, you experience it. And so, and it's not a thought.
Right.
It's something that you see. And so even in something like that, and even if you're looking at a vase and you're seeing it, I guess you're saying that once you see something, it becomes a thought and therefore it becomes valid. Like thoughts can be a valid perception. You can have a, you can see, I would argue that you probably could see a thought. I mean, you can see the direct perception of emptiness. You can see the emptiness of even your thoughts. You can see that. You can have realizations and see that. But I don't think that.
Isn't that the non-conceptual side of it? As soon as you see your thought, like you can experience the thought. But if you don't immediately move on to the next experience, it's almost like you're reifying the thought, and it's no longer is the direct perception.
Right.
If I see yellow and then I say, oh, that's yellow. As soon as I say that's yellow,
The gap in between.
right,
Yeah.
it's no longer valid because I just labeled it and I've given it a
Well, no, it's still valid.
Well, yeah, right. It's still valid, but I'm talking about something that already happened.
But I don't think that saying it makes it invalid. Like seeing it, like the minute
Right.
you see it, you have a conceptual understanding that you've seen it. Yes, there's a delay between seeing it, your mind understanding it, and then saying it. And even the word yellow is like, that's just a conceptual
Right.
word that we created, right? I mean, whatever, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
so you're right, I mean, there is a gap, sure, but I don't think it makes it any less.
Right,
Valid.
the original perception is valid.
Yeah.
And the original, anything you perceive, sense, smells, touches, all of that
It's valid,
is valid.
yeah.
But it becomes less valid when we start attaching things to it. Or it's not valid, the attachment is what's valid. I'm rambling now. I'm struggling.
The attachment that it's yellow is not valid.
Yeah,
A valid perception, I think that it seems like you're merging valid perception with conventional reality and ultimate reality. That's what it feels like. Because a valid perception it's much more simple than that from what we've been learning. It's simply just a perception that you're having with your mind being unaffected. That's it. That's all it is.
yeah, and I'm trying to take it to the next level, which is getting rid of the affliction that comes with our perceptions.
Well, that has nothing to do with valid perception, though. That's dealing with your afflictions. That is a subtlety of it, right?
Right.
It's like, so for instance, vase, I like that vase, or I hate that vase, right? There's two things happening at the same time. Vase is what it is. And so it seems like there's, have you done meditations before that's just like looking at objects and understanding like doing an emptiness of just objects around you? I mean, that's what it seems like that you're talking about. How do you see the emptiness of all things? I don't think it doesn't seem like it's a valid perception thing because there's a valid perception. Yes, I have that. I know that there's a vase. I also know that vase is empty of itself, right? And I also know I have an inherent judgment or whether it's an affliction or not, but some sort of feeling or emotion that's attached to that, right? And so there is kind of it's like the meat and the fat on top of it. You're trying to remove the fat. But removing the fat doesn't make the valid perception any less valid. It's still valid. It's just how do you strip the commentary from that? It's still a vase. I mean, it's still validly a vase. Not self-existently, right? And what you judge to it, good or bad, is also just the right?
The thought thing still got me.
Do you feel like your thoughts are not valid perceptions? Is that if that's what
Yeah, I don't see how a thought could be a perception.
Let me think
Well,
about that
who
one.
was perceiving the thought? Is the thought
But
just
it's in my
flowing?
head.
But thoughts can be perceptions.
So yeah, it's a perception, but as soon as you start thinking about the thought,
Well, then that's
It's just
another
a new
thought, maybe
valid
perception.
it's a new valid perception of the old one, which sort of means the new one. If you're recalling a valid perception, it's not a valid perception.
It's not a valid perception.
Your recollection
That's
is
right.
not valid.
That's right.
According to this.
Right, but you're talking about you're talking about perceiving what you had analyzed. You're
Yeah.
perceiving the thing that isn't the fresh memory, you're
So that's
perceiving the
fresh.
recollection
Yeah.
in real time,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
doubling up on
Yeah.
itself
perception of
of the recollection.
Yeah.
Which the recollection isn't the perception in question.
That's fair. That's okay. That works for me.
okay.
There's the valid perception thing. It works for me. The valid perception thing
That
isn't.
works for you.
Yeah, it totally works
Not
for
for
me.
me right now.
Because the valid perception thing isn't like there's something about the valid perception thing that we think valid means correct and only way.
No, That part I get.
Yeah, it's not that. So like, okay, so you're right. If it's recalling, it's not valid. All right, it's not valid. But when I had the moment of perceiving it, in that moment, it was valid. And then 5 seconds later, it's a memory or a thought. I'm looking at me looking at it, and that's not valid. Well, that original idea isn't valid. The thinking can still be valid. Am I validly perceiving it? No, I'm not. Because it's a past. Okay, that works. So what?
I just have a follow-up question on that. So I'm trying to remember the exact question in the meditation, but I remember you saying something around thinking about how holding that fear in front of us, and you asked us, did you validly perceive it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're, I forget if it was past or are you validly perceiving it? And that, I kind of turned around in circles in my mind with that, because I wasn't sure. I kept second guessing myself.
No, I think that was intentional. Can you validly perceive that?
Because that fear is something that I had when I was 5.
Yeah.
So if I bring that fear up and hold it in front of me, it's a recollection.
Totally.
It makes it even more obscene that I'm still dealing with this fear from when I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, it's a big one, but I'm making it up in my head.
Yeah.
It's not real.
No, it's not real.
It's not
It's
real
not
at all.
valid.
It's totally invalid.
It's totally invalid.
Because it's just,
But then you
What
just
is
said
invalid?
that was valid because
It's a memory. It's not a valid. It's not a fresh perception that you have.
But it would be invalid if you were experiencing it as if it's still happening now.
But
If you realize it's a recollection
Yes,
and
yes.
it's the experience.
Yeah.
Because that dread that has probably happened to everybody at one point or another, where you're just viscerally afraid
Mm-hmm.
or endangered.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone. You're not endangered right now. So if you recall that fear right now, it's not valid.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the exercise.
Totally.
Right? To point out that
It's not
why
valid.
are you worried about this? It's not real.
It's not real.
not negating the fact that when it first happened, your
Yeah,
fear
right.
said it was real.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. But you've kept that narrative going and you've reified it to be real.
it's still here.
You think it's still there.
Yeah.
It's just a construct that's created. I know, it's so trippy. When you really look at it and you sit with it, it's like, what?
Now it's time for vehicles.
What?
But I mean, it's really interesting. It's like psychology, a lot of it is based on
Yes,
recall
totally.
and looking at your past, looking at
Totally.
your patterns,
Yeah.
Being aware of it,
Yeah.
acknowledging it, and then working with it to overcome it. So I don't know now. Now I feel like my mind is Rubik's cube of
Well, I've had debates about even psychotherapy with practitioners. There's plenty of practitioners I know, and even teachers, that don't think it's important. They don't validate it. They think that it reifies things, and I can see that.
You're talking about the past?
Going to therapy.
Oh, going to therapy.
Yeah, just therapy in general, the whole idea. But I don't know, I've also, over time, I've gone back to teachers and had the conversation again, and they're open to it more. I think it's just about finding and understanding how it does integrate with your practice. Because to me, it's everything about the Dharma, right? Everything about Buddhism, especially this lineage, is about breaking your ego down. Ultimately, it's breaking you down. That's what we're trying to do. It's not to just have you self-existent and firm you up to be more of you. That's not the point. But on top, there's the spiritual work that needs to be done, but there's also the psychological. We're humans. We have human traumas. And I do think that there's value and validity in at least knowing what your psychological landscape has been made up of, so that you know what you're dealing with and you know what you're breaking down. There's a lot of break you down. It's okay, cool, I break my ego, but who am I? What did I create? How did I create it? It's like if you're gonna sculpt something, what's the medium that I'm sculpting? My tools for wood is going to be different than metal, than stone, and it's even the different kinds of metals, my tools will be different. So what tools do I bring and use if I don't know what I'm made up of? So I do think that there's importance to it, but if you look, so that's why there are contradictions of therapy, for instance, and because it is based on memory. It's based on a notion. But what's interesting is that you have that notion in mind that you've kept, which there might have been something, or there was something in your past that creates that to be, for that to ripen and for that to happen. But then you fast forward and you realize that that moment you've just actualized it. You've reified it, you've made it real, and so that's what the exercise is yes, it's true, understand that, but also understand that that's just a construct of your mind. Because that one action, that one thing that happened that gave you that trauma, it could have happened and probably did happen in some form to 1,000 other people, and not 1,000 people handled it the same way you did, right? It's empty.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Continue.
No.
Sorry, as you were talking, I was just thinking about how is karma a valid perception? If we talk about karmic past seeds and them ripening,
It's not, right? So we talked about subtle and really subtle, right? Or hidden and really hidden.
Right.
It's not a valid perception until you have reached enlightenment.
The deeply hidden phenomenon of my karma is not a valid perception until I've reached enlightenment.
But you have valid perceptions of memories, and so then if you're having
But the valid perception of karma itself is a deeply
is for sure true. I'm not, for me, it's more like, okay, if I am having a perception of a cause and effect reality that functions for me as I validly perceive it moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, it is valid up until the point where something breaks it and it's not. So I guess for me it's not weird that it feels to me that we can't say that a memory is not valid because I'm perceiving a mental image associated with a construct. I'm having a valid perception of a construct. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that the construct is valid, but my perception of it is, and I have to use that in order to deconstruct the thing. You need the memory and you need the past in order to you use karma to break it down. How else could it?
I think that works. That works to me. That feels sound. Sure. That works for me. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of valid perception is just simply saying that the textbook definition is just simply saying when you see something, there are different ways that we see it, right? And it's just coming from just understand that there's a certain state of mind that your mind needs to be. That's all it is. It's not much more than, at least in the sutras, it's not. In these sutras, it's not much more than that. Yeah.
How can you perceive emptiness as a valid perception?
You, technically, it's a deduction for a point until you actually see it. You can use deduction. You can deduce what emptiness means first through logic. Huh?
That's dependent. Every time.
Yeah, that's dependent. Exactly. Through logic. And then you can actually have that's the direct perception of it. That's a valid perception where you can have the direct perception of emptiness. It is a perception. It's an experience.
Yeah, your valid perception is 10. And then the direct perception of emptiness is non-conceptual.
No, it's non-conceptual.
You're having a valid perception of whatever that might mean.
Is there any text that describes what happens during that experience?
We're going to talk about Thursday, that 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know like specific texts that speak about it.
Or has anyone mentioned anything to you?
I have had teachers mention things, but it's usually not spoken about publicly. You know, it's not like they're going to say, when you have this experience, it looks like this, and this. You'll hear teachers sometimes talk of parts of it and let you know, but it also becomes tricky because then students will think that they're having it when they're not, but they've heard it so much that they almost visualize it to be
Don't want to
true.
create that expectation, right?
Yeah.
Is it gonna be different, I guess, for everybody?
No. It's different. I've heard it in the sense of it's different for different times of when it hits.
Mhm.
But when it hits, it's, from what I've heard, it's pretty similar for everybody. There's a certain sequence of events that happen that are very similar
Oh.
for everybody. From what I've heard.
Is it in part because it's ineffable, it can't be described?
Yeah, I mean, and it's, yeah.
And there are metaphors like the diving
Mhm.
that are used.
Yeah. There are metaphors that people will have. It's one of those things that it's hard because you don't, I mean, in that moment too, you don't exist.
Right.
Everything is empty.
I mean, you're losing all of your projection,
Everything.
everything, so everything that you can probably
Everything.
describe is using the wrong language, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, emptiness would be a protection.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is a protection.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be the lack of a projection?
No, because you're perceiving, you're still having perception, like you still have a projection.
But the emptiness is lack of any projection.
It's a lack of,
Something that wasn't there first. Sorry.
yeah, well,
So everything that is not.
I mean, you don't have a projection like the way you're not projecting onto it, but you are experiencing. So I guess you can say that it's a lack of projection. Yeah, that works. Yeah, but it is a series of events. I've even had conversations too about the karma to even be able to have the direct perception of emptiness and what needs to happen and why there are these practices of ethics that are still there. I mean, every spiritual lineage has an ethics and morality, and there's a reason why. And how, like, the karmas that you have to collect to be able to, it's not, the direct perception emptiness is not something that happens because you worked hard. It doesn't work that way. It's not working hard, you know? I wish it was, because I think I would done it every week, you know? It's not like that. It is your ethics and your morality. It is the six perfections, truly. It really is. And even with ethics, it's like, it's not like ethics like do not kill your mom and dad. I mean, you know, that's obviously part of it, but it starts to seep into compassion and empathy. I mean, really, it's like, don't hurt other people in the most subtlest levels. It's really, like, I look at those six perfections and I just think, man, when I first learned that, I was like, the more I look at it, it's just the subtleties of it. And there's a reason why that we have that. And so having the karma and building the karma, right? Collecting the karma of virtue, and ethics and morality is such a big part of it. It must be there. And that's where having bodhicitta gets you, I think, in quicker. You know, it helps you move it faster. Then I think it also changes the way you exist. Like, I think that when you have bodhicitta, you don't get burnt out. I don't think it works that way. I think we get burnt out because we think about ourselves. I think that when you're really, it's not to say you're planning on tired, but when you're really working from a place of understanding what it means to do things for other people and for other beings, I don't think you get burnt out. It's a different type of cycle. Like, you're just on a different wavelength. You're not building up energy to deplete it. It's just it's this, right? It's on
It's joyful effort.
It's joyful effort.
They didn't call it effort.
Yeah.
It's called joyful effort.
Yeah.
And when you have that much joy,
Yeah.
you get burned.
You don't get burnt out.
When it really is fun,
Yeah.
helping other people,
Yeah.
you do it all the time.
All the time.
But it's more fun to help other people than to smoke pot.
Totally.
You know, my understanding, so I've been reading Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and it seems like spiritual evolution would be this movement from a dualistic perception of how reality functions, where ethics would be right, wrong, but then you become so habituated to doing ethics that you evolve to knowing. You develop this capacity of knowing at all times what's right. So it kills the vacillating mind. It saves you energy. And nirvana in Buddhism, it's a state of mind where you always know what's right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
your
It's
mind
much
is
clearer.
clearly inhabited
It's easier.
by what you need to do.
I mean, having a philosophy that you can, at a high level, understand and abide by, it makes decisions much easier. Like, should I do this or should I do that? It's not a question. It's not what it is. It's why I do it. What's my intention? What's my motivation? And when you know what your motivations are, it's just easier to make decisions. Like it's so silly, but true confession. It was Easter weekend, so we went and hung out with Armando's parents on Sunday and had a really lovely lunch. And his mom was asking me questions about skincare. So I was like, okay, I don't have skincare, whatever. And she's like, what do you do? And I was like, well, there's like a regimen that you can do and be a part of if you want or whatever. And in Korea, K-beauty is a big thing right now. So I think she had heard something or seen something. And I went home and I was going through this bin I have of just beauty products that I have that I've inherited because my whole family's really big on K-beauty. It's a little insane. And I have these like samples of this really expensive beauty line, like the skincare line that I've had. And I looked at it and I said, hey, Armando, do you think maybe I should like give a few to your mom to test out for skincare? And he goes, yeah, that's a great idea. I said, yes, so she can test it, see how she feels. He goes, yeah, great. And I'm going through it and I'm seeing myself being so stingy. Where I'm like, okay, this one I have, like, oh, that one, though, that's like super expensive. And I don't have that many. I have like only 2 left. And, it's like, I don't know where I'm going to get my hands on more of it. And I see myself I pick it up and putting it back into the bin. I kid you not. And I'm looking at it and I have this moment where I'm thinking, okay, something is wrong here. Because I feel this tension, like I want to, but I'm being greedy. And in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, Jee, this is not how you create the causes for better skin. If you want better skin, you need to help other people have better skin. So hoarding the extra bottle is not going to give you better skin. So give it away, So I took it out. I literally closed the bin. I sat there. I was like, okay, just open the bin up. I took it, and I still felt this temptation, maybe I'll just tuck it away. And I said, okay, Armando, here's the collection. Let's put it into a bag, or else I'm going to take it out. It's this weird thing that I have. I don't know, But it was just fascinating of how even something as simple, it was so simple and so rapid and funny, at least for me at the moment. I don't think I've shared it with anybody. I was just really embarrassed about myself. But it wasn't, even something as simple as that, it wasn't a struggle, shouldn't I, because I would have normally conventionally calculated it, or justified or rationalized, well, she doesn't really like it, and it smells funny, and what if she freaks out, or I would have all these reasons. And when you have a certain view, a philosophy that you abide by, or you're trying to practice, it makes it easier. You're like, this is crazy. Yes, I have afflictions that are there, but this is crazy. Why would I even struggle, Should I help this person or not? How do I do that? What is that? Do I take this job? Do I not take this job? Do I say something to my teacher or not? Like, it gets easier and there's less drama, you know? And the conversations tend to elevate, I think, overall. Like, even with families or colleagues, like, it's not, like, I shared it with you guys last week with my friend that I met for dinner, and he's talking about growing his company and scaling it. I could have gotten so easily wrapped up into that, and it was like, that's not the point. The point is, why are you just thinking about you? Can we talk about that? Because that's more interesting, not trying to figure out your strategy of how you're gonna get another round of funding. I don't really care about that, you know? And so it makes it less, and even the conversations are better, I think. Relationships feel deeper, and the choices that you make are much easier, I think, yeah.
Okay, so I have those moments like you had with the thing.
With the skincare?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, it comes down to this moment of like, I am a person who is following karma and emptiness, and I'm going to live my life this way. And then I'm like, I should get out of the bed right now and go meditate.
Mhm.
That's what it's very clear for me what the moral thing to do is, and I can do it, I logically get it.
Yeah.
And then there's this part of me that's like, F it, I don't care, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do the bad thing. I don't feel like it. And I don't care what the karma is coming at me, I'll just deal with it. And I don't wanna be like that. Like, it means on a deeper level that I don't actually believe karma and emptiness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I don't, or that I just have such a habit of ignoring, like, and John still at some point in that thing was like, oh, you have all these voices going on in your head, at what point, which one are you gonna listen to, which one are you gonna obey? And I'm still like, I just wanna do the bad thing.
Mhm.
I don't know how to fix that.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do that.
What do you guys think?
We're obviously working on it.
Great. You know what? Thank you. Thank you. Seriously.
I know, but like, I don't like watching myself doing things that like, I know karmically are just retarded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't, but in the moment, I'm like, I'm like a 3-year-old, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
I mean, I think that's developing bodhicitta. I mean, that's what gets people out of bed and on the cushion. For most practitioners that I've seen and heard of, you know.
Yeah, the motivation for me when I get that way, I probably get that way more than you do. It's always something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's always like, what was it? I wrote Kunsak.
Mhm.
It's very big on calling to mind what it is that brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's usually something that's serious.
Yeah.
You know, there's a struggle that you're dealing with, or there's someone that's suffering, and you really want to help them.
Yeah.
Like if you recall someone who's suffering, it's a little easier to get out of bed
Yeah.
in the wintertime.
I
But
think
it's like you said earlier, it's like you spend all your time thinking about yourself.
Yeah.
It's all hard.
it's hard. I think that trying to get out of bed for yourself is very difficult. That's been for me. I won't do it for me. I'll do it for me when I'm really desperate. Like it's
Yes.
bad, you know, I'm like crawling to the cushion and it's like crying and just like so heavy that it's like, help me, you know, I mean, when it's that bad, I'll be at the cushion. If it's for someone else, it's easier. But if it's like a daily, you know, it's not dire yet. My life isn't that, like, it's not that bad. It's hard to do it if it's not for others. It's really hard to do it. You know, it gets you out of bed, you know, and then you're just like, I gotta sit, even for a little bit. You know, or the other thing too, when you have those moments, it's also a question of, is there a different way to look at the practice? Does it need to change? You know, is it not exciting to you, or are you just shutting down and not wanting to dress? Like to be able to understand what is it, rather than being so, I think, hard on yourself about, I know I should do it. Obligation is hard too. I mean, I fight with that. Like I grew up in so much obligation and I hate that I'm that way and I want that to go away, but it's so ingrained in my DNA. And when I see it rise, I have to almost like stop myself and then be the anti and then feel guilty and then find my way back to neutral. It's such a journey. It sucks. So if there's a sense of obligation that like if you can try to understand what's at the core of that sense of I don't want to, what is it really? Because it's not just you being a child. There's something else that's underneath that, I suspect. And is it a motivation thing? Is it I don't want to deal, an escapism thing? Is it something where it's a trigger? Like, is there something in your psychological landscape, really? Is there a trigger? That's what I would look at. Because like sometimes for me, when I have to do sits and I just don't feel like it. I'm just too tired. I don't feel like it. I'll listen to a teaching. And that's better. It's easier. It's like, you know what? I don't have it in me. My meditations aren't good. Then I feel bad about myself. And then I'm like super judgy. And I spend like all morning trying to be not so judgy. And, and then it just doesn't work. So sometimes I just listen to a teaching or read and make that part of my practice. And that works. It's okay, Or it could be even like I've done stuff where I wake up early and I just go on a walk. And that's just a different expression, where it's like something has to change. Like something's static. Or yoga is another way. And I remember there was a time where I used yoga and every inhale and exhale I did bodhicitta that I would practice during the whole series. That was really hard. But I would start making that part of my practice. Like I couldn't be on the cushion, so I would use my yoga, my asana to do it. So you just find creative ways, I think, to see, because if that method isn't working and you keep being resistant, you've just habituated resistance. Like now you've created blocks and now you're really good at knowing how to do that and defend yourself. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else? Good. Sorry when we went over. I hope that was helpful though. It's nice to do discussions.
Sashi Puki Jushing Meto Tram Rigram Linshi Nyente Kempadi Sangye Shindu Nikte Umarki Rokun Nandak Shima Chuparsho Yam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamyatayami Gewa Kewokum Sinam Yeshe Sok Sok Shin Sinam Yeshe Lijumwe Damba Kunyi Tuparsho.
Just want you to sit. We're going to close. First, rejoicing in your efforts this evening. The fact that you came, you listened, you're open. Commend yourself. And close the evening dedicating your efforts this evening, evoking why you came to class in the first place, what brought you here. And dedicate that to one or many. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jee.
Thank you for teaching. Thanks.